Blessings. Blessings and welcome, everyone. I'm so very grateful to be here with you this morning. And what a journey it has been to get here, to be here now with you. For all of us collectively, this is massive. This is really, really huge. Everything that we're going to be going through today is probably some of the most spectacular stuff that we collectively here at this channel and this community are going to be putting together, and that we are going to be offering today. And I say we, if you follow me through this channel, that beginning some time ago last year, well, actually it began several years before that, that I have been in a very integrated way channeling a luminous crystals entity named Relivar. Now, there's a whole story about Relivar that I'm going to be writing and offering at my website. The point is that energy is integrated, which means someone was recently asking me about it because I was sharing, and they were saying, well, does that mean that you kind of like go into this trance state? No, because Relivar is integrated into me, unbeknownst to me, and through working with Saint Germain in the Violet Flame, which began almost 3 years ago. A fractal aspect of Saint Germain was planted inside of me, into my consciousness, and I welcomed it, and I asked for it, to work with that violet flame energy, to understand it more, for it to be integrated into my life, that I can use it to help heal my life and share those teachings with others. Yet I didn't realize until late last year that an actual aspect, a fractal aspect of the violet flame, a fractal aspect of Saint Germain, was at that point working with me over those 2 years in channeling heaven on earth teachings. And that's all we do here at 4D Trinity. And if you are a part of this community, most of the teachings, most of the videos I share here are all about us learning how to master our minds, master our mouths, attune with the truth in our hearts, with love and with light, that we may bridge heaven on earth through us. This vehicle, this channel, this being that we are, is fully wired and capable for a supernatural experience here on this planet, not in the world as we have known it, yet on the earth as we are beginning to come acclimated to it. And here at 4D Trinity, what we say is we create 4D consciousness, unity consciousness, a collective of unity consciousness through the healing, the bonding, through the union of mind, body, and emotions. What we teach here, and again, I say we because Relivar, he wants me to show you the picture that came. And if you've been watching, then you're familiar. And I say we because Relivar, again, is an integrated fractal aspect that has been speaking through me and working through me for these teachings for over 2 years now. So again, someone was asking, do you do like a Whoopi Goldberg? Do you get all, funked up and then like this whole other entity comes through? No, it is much more, we don't have to do that. Once our density is less dense, once our field is less dense, there is that whole shift into the physical doesn't happen. And especially if it's an ongoing entity that you work with, then there doesn't have to be this like penetrating into the veil of self. It is more elegant in a supernatural way. And so often I will say we, and I am talking about our oversoul group, my oversoul group, which we'll talk about that a little later. Angels, guides, light beings, all those divine blessed ones, but especially Relivar. And again, it's this integrated aspect of Saint Germain, that is Relevar, that speaks through me, that has been helping to deliver the heaven on earth teachings, if you follow me, that as we have come to learn them together. So in these teachings, we learn that spirit is one. Spirit is, pardon my French, unfuckable with. Your spirit, your soul, in the 3D matrix might seem that it can be messed with or scarred or needs healing and, you know, all of these things. But these are worldly ideas. These are limited ideas. In the 4D realm of consciousness that we teach here, your soul cannot be messed with. Your spirit is your soul, just different words, different fractal aspects of the same thing, cannot be messed with. It cannot be broken. It cannot be whatever all the stories are in this world about it. So your soul, your spirit, your higher self, your God self, your love self, always is in its perfect state, in its perfect hologram, in its perfect blueprint, effortlessly. Channeling you, being you, the root of you, that is the truth of you, is always there in you. And that's what we're getting to today. Massive, massive work today. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be here with you. Someone just said hello. And I got new glasses, so it's very interesting. Wow. Oh, what a name. Brishanese. Brishanese. Thank you for signing on and saying hello and welcome. Blessings, blessings, and welcome. So we're going really deep here today, yet you're ready. If you're watching this, whether it's now during the actual live stream or you come back later, you are so on, you are so ready, and your higher self is telling you, is guiding you to be here with these teachings, with this information, that they can fortify and nourish and help you to connect the dots within yourself of your consciousness. Because again, that's what we're doing here, is we're creating unity of mind, body, and emotions, of this 3D part of ourselves that are in this matrix, that are in a body, that connect with worldly forms, that connect with a past and a future. And we know as we activate the 4D consciousness, the love channel within us, that there is a plane. As Rumi says, there's a field beyond. I'll meet you there. And that is the space, as we say in A Course in Miracles, where love and only love resides. So understanding that we talk here about the binary system that is the world, that is the matrix that we call, that I teach as being the grid matrix of collective consciousness. And often you'll know that we will use this picture, and I know there's some glare, but I'll do my best to not have it so glary. But we use that picture often to demonstrate this idea of the grid matrix of collective consciousness, which we will be referring to later. Yet ultimately what we're doing is we're learning how to heal ourselves so deeply and to be free of the past, be free of the chains that bind, be free of those parts of us that we think are the real us. You see, and that's where the adventure begins, when we let go of who we think we are. Then spirit, then, and I do say the God word, so if it gives you a knee-jerk reaction, what I offer to you is please just know that when we say God here, what we're talking about is love, is the value of love without an opposite. Love and only love is 4D consciousness, is what we're here all about to talk about and to share. That's why this show is called 4D, fourth dimensional Trinity, because the Trinity is that divine alignment. You see, as we learn to master the body, this mind, this body, these emotions, as we learn to master those constructs and align them in attunement with spirit, in attunement again with that perfect blueprint of your higher self, of your wisdom self, of your God self, of your love self, with the heart. That divine alignment allows for miracles, allows for the shift of timelines, allows for spontaneous, immaculate healing that is miraculous. allows for the divine to come in and channel through us for the highest good of all. And that's what we're talking about. Universal reincarnation. This is so exciting. I mean, today is hot. The God phone. The God phone's ringing. Okay. Let's see. Hello? Yes, God. Good morning. God says, hi, everyone. Yes. Yes. God is just a word. It's a symbol twice removed, God says. So if you freak out about the word God, don't let that be rewired. That's a story. That's a grid. You are reacting to the polarity, to the pain, to all the threats, to all the warnings about hell and judgment. And that's not real, is what God is saying. Yeah, we're writing a new story. For 4D consciousness, which we are creating together, we are writing a new story. Yeah. And it's all from the truth, and it's all from heart and from love. Oh, you do? Oh my gosh, that's right. Last week, God is saying in last week's 4D Trinity, you know, last week we did a 4DT that was called Alcohol, Sobriety, and the Higher Self. God calls on the phone. If you're new to this show, God calls on the phone every week on this show and says a little ditty or has us read a passage, an inspiring passage from a book of some sort. And now God is reminding me that God did call last week and recommended that we read something regarding that show, and we never read it. So you want us to read it this week? I do. I have the book right here because there's little bits in it that I wanted to read from today as we go through our passages today. So that's awesome. Okay, that sounds good. God says namaste, everyone. Blessings, dear God. Okay, I'm going to do it right now so we don't forget. Okay. I love you too. Blessings. All right. So cool. So God, of course, I see, this is what happens. We get so excited with all the teachings and all the good stuff that sometimes once in a blue moon, we forget to read our passages. So ground from spirit. Again, I need to look closely. Rishanese, and I pray I'm saying that right. Ground from spirit. If you have a question, help me understand your question a little deeper. But let's just, let's come back here because last week, again, the topic was alcohol, sobriety, and the higher self. And it's funny because what we were guided to read last week that we did not read, but that we are reading here today is about the addiction. The addiction, right? So whether we're talking about drugs, and we're taking a little sidestep here, but it's all connected. So whether we're talking about drugs, we're talking about sex, we're talking about food, we're talking about cigarettes, caffeine, marijuana, cocaine, whatever it could be, wine. Wine was a big one for me, as you know, if you're a regular. The addiction, right, is equal to the little reward, right? And so I remember going on a retreat and having some pot with me. And pot was a daily thing for me. I used to smoke every single day. And I remember going to the retreat and having this sense that I should probably be clean. I should do my best to abstain from going there, if you will. You know, just be clean, not smoke every day how I would, and allow myself to just be fully pure and clear to receive the divine messages and the healing from this retreat that God had guided. And I remember going in and talking to the woman who was running the retreat, and also we were in the kitchen and the chef was in the kitchen. And I remember asking her, I asked the lady who was running the retreat, I says, you know, I do enjoy smoking the sacred herb on a daily basis, right? This was I was still in that addiction mode several years ago. I don't do that anymore, but I was in it and I was at this retreat and I asked her and I said, what's your guidance? I was like, because of course my higher self had already told me, like, don't do it. Just abstain. Just be clean, be clear for this experience. Yet, of course, I was like, that's not what I want to hear. So let me just ask a few more times in a few different ways. So I asked the teacher and she said, well, you know, that's okay. Yet if it's within your will, you know, do without it. for this experience. And the retreat was only like 5 days. So I could do that, you know. But if you have a regular thing, if you're a cigarette smoker, if you're a coffee drinker, if you're a sex addict, if you're a whatever it is, 5 days can seem like an eternity at the same time. But she said that, and I says, yes, I can will thy will. And I had done it before, in detoxes and stuff. So anyway, the chef who's in the room with us, he's cooking up a storm. He overhears us and he looks at me and he says, at the end of the retreat, it will be your little reward. And I thought, I have never heard that concept before, where, your glass of wine or your cigarette or your whatever it is your little reward. And I had never put that together. But then I wrote these notes, and this is what the God Phone wanted us to talk about last week, in last week's 4DT, which later I will come back and I'll put links up top. There'll be just a bunch of links, right, that you can check out if you're new, especially. So I wrote this, everything was a reward. I realized, I was like, wow, everything was a reward in life. The caffeine, the pot, the tobacco, the alcohol, the food. Yet, there were points of my life. Everything was a reward, yet my life was not rewarding. Now, isn't that interesting? My life was not rewarding. The addiction is the little reward, but it stops becoming. It stops being the reward when life becomes the reward. When your whole life becomes the reward, then you don't require those little bumps, along the way to like give yourself the pat on the back to say, okay, you can, you can party now. Or at least if you do have your glass of wine, your joint, or your whatever it is for you, it doesn't have that same, it's not a reward. It's a part of the reward of the entirety of life. So I pray that that serves you in some way as we go deeper into the mix today. So as you know, that today's theme is hidden purpose, why your calling isn't manifesting. Now, this is a big one for many, and I've prepared just such an extravaganza. And I'm very excited, and that's why I was a little bit late this morning, because I was still working on generating all the goods for today's show. So if you have to leave at some point, please do come back if it's of interest to you and listen, because we're going in real deep today. We're going in really, really deep. And I'm very grateful for this beautiful community. So again, let me just backtrack. Welcome, everyone. I am Tuesday Mae Thomas. This is 4D Trinity, where we bridge the mind, the body, and the emotions, right? With spirit, with heart, that we may access and have the experience of a 4D consciousness, of a new level of consciousness, of a heaven on earth realization, individually and collectively. And that's what we do here. All the teachings, everything I share, everything we share is all about that. It's all about metaphysics, spiritual studies, and knowing thyself divine. So in getting to this, it was very interesting, because I'll come back and I'll put a link for it later. But this most recent tarot, if you're new to this channel, every 10 days, I call it weekly tarot, but really it's about every 10 days, I read, and I have a tarot playlist, and I extend a video. And this last tarot was kind of tough. It was kind of, it hit pretty deep in terms of, well, the title of it is Zero Your Story, right? And in connecting with this hidden purpose, why your calling isn't manifesting, we have these stories within us. We have these dreams within us that we have given value to, and that do give us value, right? To levels in this life that give us aspirations and goals and help us to make plans for who we want to be, where we want to be, where we're going in life. Where are you going in life? What are you doing? What are you creating? And that's all very 3D. It's all very much about making plans and, going for it. And that's a beautiful gift. That's a powerful thing to be able to do, and to be able to enable yourself to give yourself that gift. right? Because there's a level of self-love that is required for us to give ourselves the gift of what we feel is the truth in our heart. And now sometimes it's almost like there's this divine balance, right? Because there are people that we will know in life that have their dreams, that have their visions, their desires, their pure desires. Remember, we did a show a couple months ago about the desire, right? And the pure desire of one's heart. And there are people that we will know in this life who are living their dreams, who are doing the 3D things, right? Like, I have a dear friend who is a screenwriter. She's been screenwriting for, I don't know, 10 or 14 years. Like, she's been writing and writing and sending off scripts and screenplays to big television shows. And she's almost gotten in the door here and sat with this person there, but nothing ever came yet, right? But she has connections and she knows this person. But ultimately, you know, she's following her heart, and she's been following her heart and following her heart, and disappointment after disappointment after disappointment did not stop her. She kept going, kept striving, kept reaching, and boom, in this last week, she just won grand prize, which is this huge cash prize, and her screenplay, which is called Cannabis. Her name is Shane Elizabeth. Look out for this lady, because she's on fire. Her screenplay is going to be table read by professional actors at Sundance, where there's going to have like a couple hundred people allowed audience to observe this, where she's going to get to meet and greet with directors and hobnob and, you know, expand. So her calling is manifesting. So now that's not what we're talking about today. And perhaps there's glitches, that's a funny word. Perhaps there's aspects of your calling that feels that it is manifesting. Yet what we're talking about today, where we're going to today, is a much different, is a much larger arena. It's all connected and it's all beautiful and large. Yet there's this aspect of this hidden purpose, a hidden purpose in being a part of the hidden realm of why your calling isn't manifesting. So maybe, like my friend, you know what is your truth in your heart. You know that you want to be an artist. You know that you are an artist. You know that you are whatever that thing is. And you've spent your whole life doing that, preparing to do that, you know, practicing being that, harboring your skills, gaining your talents, sharpening your gifts, yet you haven't broke yet. You've sent in your articles to magazines to be published. No one wants to publish them yet. You know, you've sent off your art to be shown at different gallery showings, and no one wants to touch it yet. You're an actor, you're a performer, and you've been on a million auditions, and no one calls you back yet. These are the things that I'm talking about, right? Or you have this idea. You have this very fixed idea of how you think it's supposed to happen for you, whatever that pure desire, the truth, the vision in your heart is. And now remember, your dreams, there's a difference that we talk about here. There's a difference between the dreams and the visions that you conjure with your mind on the mental plane. There's a difference between this versus the vision, what is visionary, given from the point of your inception as a fetus that your soul brought in with you as the truth in your heart, as the truth in your spirit. There is a difference between you creating dreams, I pray that's clear, and what you think, how you want it to happen. And there's nothing wrong with that. We learn, these are skills, we learn this. There is a point beyond that, though, that we're going to be talking about. Yet there's that difference, right, between that and what you came in with, what is the truth in your heart. And now I want to stay on point, so I'm going to read this question. Hello, I'm Bryshanice. Now, I pray I can remember how that pronounces. Thank you for breaking it down, though. Hello and welcome. And anyone else who's hanging out in the wings, if you're guided, it'd be lovely for you to say hi in the comment box. But we're going to keep on going. We're going to keep on going. So there's the difference, right? Between the mental, what your mind wants to create, how we think it needs to happen, versus what the heart already came in knowing. So this whole episode for 4DT today is inspired by this most recent tarot reading, because I realized, you know, sometimes I listen back and sometimes I'm too busy and I just post and I just keep going. Yet I listened back to this and I thought, wow, this is a real tough message. This is real tough love in a way. And honestly, what I want to call today is the school of hard knocks. It's the school of hard knocks, because there might be things today that we're going to say that you don't want to hear. You might feel that you're not ready to hear, yet you are. If you're here, then you're ready to hear what is here, if you're here. And it's all from love. It's all from love. So there's a point here. Why your calling isn't manifesting, there's a point I want to just make here, because it's funny. It reminds me of my teacher, and I don't work with her now. But for my 3 years of apprenticeship in Reiki and in all things spiritual, multidimensional, metaphysical healing, I remember, I mean, there was a small group of us that worked with her, and it was so powerful. The time I spent with her in this small group, and we were all just healing and transforming and like and crying and just dropping, you know, all sorts of tar and just healing all sorts of achy, hunky, funky, gunky stuff inside of us. And people, she would always crack up, because she would have just massive amounts of paper towels, of tissues, of all things paper products, she used to call them, of all things paper products, boxes and boxes of Kleenex, paper towels, just all sorts of things. And we used to laugh, because there would be so many of us that would end up just sitting on her couch, bawling our eyes out, crying, just processing volumes and volumes of ancient pain and issues and things that we were healing in our work with her. And she would just constantly, you know, pass the box of tissues, and it became this cute thing. And she would let us all, you know, just bawl our eyes out for like weeks. She would let us process and go through it and all that stuff. And then one thing I noticed about her, and then things would shift. And all of a sudden she would say to us, okay, you've been crying for like 3 or 4 weeks now about this. You've been processing, you've been feeling it out, you've been journaling. This is great. You've been doing your work. And now you know what, it's time. And we'd be like, what? And she'd be like, it's time to suck it up. And you'd be like, and you'd want to cry even more, because she was being the fierce teacher, but she was also inviting you to master up and to get over it now, to stop being, I put this in a bubble of light, but to stop being a crybaby about it. And that's where we're going with this whole idea of why your calling isn't manifesting. Sometimes we get stuck in this like, why hasn't it happened yet? And I've been on a million auditions, and I've sent in my book to 15 different publishers, and no one wants to pick it up. And my art just doesn't get picked up by any gallery. And, you know, and then we get into this like whole thing. And we start, you know, being that crybaby about it in a way. And so today, in honor of, you know, my teacher that was, suck it up. It's time now. It's time now. School of hard knocks. It's time to suck it up and to level up, to master up. And we have information here for you today that is going to ease the road. It's going to ease the path. It's going to make it easier for you to say, oh, okay, I can suck it up. I can level up. I can master up, because I'm realizing there's more. I'm realizing there is more. There's a much larger continuum. There's a much larger picture that's happening. So what I want to do is I want to review. I made notes from this last week's tarot. And just to remind you, it's called Zero Your Story. When we are stuck in the past, we cast the past into the future, and neither are real. God has to postpone your good in the now. You become encased in the past and the future, which is the binary, as you know, if you study here with us. It's the binary, being in the past and the future, but not in the now. right? And it's that versus having access and being accessible to the infinite good and possibility in the now. So zeroing our story has to do with letting go of the dream the way that you think it needs to happen, of your life needing to happen the way that you think it needs to happen. When we don't fully release control, and control is focusing on the past and the future versus allowing ourselves to be present in the now, right? Control is the past and the future, is time, is binary, is the 3D, is the collective grid matrix. You may feel like you are fighting and exhausted with life, right? And so there's this sense of like, I'm following my dreams. Why isn't my calling happening? I'm going to all the things. I'm connecting all the dots. I'm applying to all the things, and it's like no one's giving me a break. Nothing's happening. Nothing's breaking through yet, right? And so what happens is we feel like we're like in this fight with life. We become exhausted with life because we're trying to do it all by ourselves. And what we learn and what we teach here is that you don't have to do it by yourself. There's another way. We remember and we learn that we can ask for help. We can ask our angels, our guides, God, to step in and to help. So when you've run yourself ragged, trying to make things happen, right? Trying to move things, trying to manipulate things, trying to set things up and to control things over and over and over again, and it's just not happening. Right? You're trying to organize people, places, and circumstances, to make moves on your heartfelt desires, and it's not happening. Your calling isn't manifesting. Number one, divine timing always has your back, and it may not be time yet. And number two, perhaps there's a hidden purpose. Perhaps there's a much larger picture than the scope of vision that you are conjuring from the mere mind, from the mental faculty that you inhabit. And now we're going to remind us that there is a time and a space to have a vision. We all have vision, right? When we drop into the now, when we drop into that center of power, of faith, of love, of God, of being a channel for that, there is a power there. And there's a time and space to have that vision be moved upon, right? And we can affirm it, and we can bless it, and we can allow it from the heart to be divinely come manifest for the highest good of all, for the highest good of all. Freedom and sovereignty require the death of you. So, hidden purpose. Why hasn't it happened yet? Why isn't it happening yet? I've been doing this for 30 years. The record company, I've been singing, I've been making recording demos, I've played millions of shows, I've performed in front of different publishers. Like, why isn't it happening? Right? Well, it's not happening because number one, it's not time. And number two, if you want it and need it that bad, it actually creates a field of resistance, which creates a field of postponement because you are not, again, in the now. And maybe in the 80s, those old ways of conjuring, of manifesting would have worked faster because there was a different consciousness then, where witchcraft, where, and I say that in a bubble of light, but where I mean manipulating people, places, and things to get things the way you want. If you're spiritually turned on and have been doing your work in spirit, with love, with God, with source, then those modes of transporting information and telecommunication and manifestation we're wired in a different way now. You see, our training, our initiation is taking us in a different way, and we're not working those old lines of communication anymore. For the most part, perhaps you still are, but where we're going is to that 0 point, as you know, is this 4D consciousness, which is love and only love, and that is the place of freedom and sovereignty. And freedom and sovereignty require a death of you. They require a death of who you think you are and how you think life is supposed to give you what you think you need in order to be happy, in order to be validated, in order for your calling to manifest. But this is all based on the past, you see. And what we learn is we learn to allow. We learn to allow things for the highest good in the most beautiful ways that serve not only us individually, but the us that is collectively here. So, you know, I have notes everywhere here today. It's very interesting because a very, very dear friend of mine, who I'm going to share just a little bit about, is an actor and had just been on numerous auditions and was feeling very jazzed and very good and very excited about it. And the lady even told him, like at the end, like the audition went great. They were all like laughing and like, you're on, dude, and it's all good and all this stuff. And he felt really good about it. And the lady even came up and she's like, I'm going to call you later. I'm going to call you later. Just, okay, that was great. Bye. You know, and so you can imagine you're all like, whoop, whoop, whoop. You're all feeling like, this is on. I got the part, you know, like you want to go there. And these are my words. These are not his words. But we were having this conversation about it because he said, well, she said she was going to call me and email me and she never did. And I was like, oh. And I remember saying to him, isn't that interesting? Because when it doesn't happen the way we want it to, or the way it appears that it might, like she said, I'm going to call you. You're like, she don't call me, you know? She didn't call him, not yet, if she does. But when it doesn't happen the way we want it to, or the way we think it should, or the way that we're told it will, we get to ask what's happening on a much larger level. What's happening on a much larger level? And I'm going to break these down. I know I'm pointing over here, but we're going to talk about this. And I asked him that, and I says, well, if it's not happening the way that you think it's going to happen, the way that you were told it's going to happen, then what's happening on a much bigger picture? And he said, I don't know. And I said, perfect. That's perfect. Your I don't know is your knowing thyself, is your nowing thyself, which that's a whole other show that we'll get into another time. But your I don't know is your nowing thyself, is you're allowing yourself when you don't know the answer. And believe me, there's things that we may know the answer to. And if there's anything that I do know, I always say this, is that I know that love is the truth. And that is the only thing that I know. And that is the only thing I need to know, because from that firm point of knowing that love is the truth, everything else is oriented. And so he allowed himself to come back to that in his own way. Why your calling isn't manifesting, hidden purpose. So what's this hidden purpose about, Tuesday? It is sad. And I agree with it. I feel it. I have a sense of knowing it. That we are in a time phase now of universal reincarnation, of a collective universal reincarnation. Now, what does that mean? That means that everyone who has ever been in a body on this planet Earth, through all time and space, whenever that began, whether we're cavemen or Neanderthal women or Eskimos, wherever you're, you know, Atlantis, where all that stuff, the land of Mu, all that stuff, whatever your gig is, however far back you think it all goes, anyone who's ever been a person on this planet, we're actually all here right now, reincarnated at the same time, right? And people are like, oh, there's the population of the world is so high, and we're going to need to, you know, whatever, all the fear stuff that can come with all that, the Agenda 30, the Agenda 21s, all that conspiracy stuff that seem to be, you know, working a certain angle with that, but we don't need to go there. The point is that if it resonates with you, there's this idea that there is this universal and collective reincarnation happening right now. So if you're here now, chances are you've been here before. And in fact, what I get as a download right now is that about pretty much 90% of those of us that are here are those of us who have been here, like many times over. And we're back. We're back for this party. We're back for this universal reincarnation, where we get to see all our friends, all those people, all those family members, all those members of our tribe or our communities. And we get to be here together and do a certain work here in this lifetime. Again, we're going to get to that. So how do you feel about that? Right? So imagine 90%, that the majority, like the main mass majority of beings here, humans, beings, there's a bit of a mishmash, a bit of a mix, that are here, have been here before. And we're all back now. We're all back together. Why is this so? Why is this so? And what does it mean? Could this have something to do with your hidden purpose? Could this have something to do with why your calling isn't manifesting just yet, or in just the ways that you think it should? Yes is the answer that I'm giving you today. So this whole idea, again, going back to the tarot, is inspired by this idea where we say to God, right? And again, God is love, where we say to love, the power of love, where we say, use me, God. If you are a student of A Course in Miracles, there's a beautiful prayer you might know. And if it's new to you, I share it with you. And I use it pretty much as a constant every day. And I have done for some time now. And this is what's gotten me into this mess. No, just kidding. Into the spiritual mess. No. But you say, God, use me. You know, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? And you know, or maybe this is new to you, but there's this idea that if you're really saying, yo, God, yo, love, divine supreme force, divine supreme presence and being that is all and beyond all, that is the all, use me. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? I mean, if you have any thread of anchoring into, again, that the dream, the way you're calling, you think it needs to happen, that's going to be a threat to you. That prayer will not resonate with you, because it takes the seeming, quote, power out of your hands and puts it into someone else's hands. And I know there's a debate, there's a thing. And again, God, the way that I teach it, the way that we share it here, is just love. It's love and only love. Love without an opposite, love without fear and judgment. It is the presence, the frequency. It is actually beyond frequency. But for this conversation and for a 3D way to navigate and anchor the meaning, the definition of that, we think about it as a frequency, as an energy, as a feeling, really, more than anything, is pure, pure supreme love. And when we surrender our lives to that, and we say, where would you have me go, love? That basically, you know, clears your scheduler from the way that you think that you need to, again, go to all the auditions or send in all those books to the publishers, or whatever it is that you are attempting to manifest as you're calling through you. When you give it to God, you begin to, and really, and that's a practice, but as you begin to orient in that such of a way, you realize you bump into your ego, you bump into yourself, you bump into those parts of you that thinks it knows how things need to happen. And now, granted, I'm not talking about that which is going to threaten your integrity or your authenticity, because God and love and source is always in attunement and alignment with that truth. And that truth is a universal truth. Integrity is universal. Yes, there are individual and collective aspects of that, but integrity and truth are universal. And God, love, source, is not going to fuck with your authentic self. It might trigger your ego to be like, I ain't doing that. You know? But it's always going to be in attunement with truth, with love, firmly so. And that can threaten the ego. And so it is a challenge. The point is that I have been doing that prayer for years now. And it's even bumped up. And as you know, we talk here. Often the God phone will call and we'll do a passage from A Course in Miracles. Often I'll integrate some of those teachings into some of these teachings that we share here. But there is also Marianne Williamson, as you know. And for years, she's been a teacher of A Course in Miracles. And I remember the first time I ever heard her say this variation of that, like that prayer, but in a different way, in that way of, use me, dear God. Use my voice. Use my body. Use my vision. Use my hands. Use my words. Use my thoughts, my actions. Dear God, use me. I mean, that is so powerful. I remember the first time I ever heard her say that, I mean, tears. I was like, because it had a resonance with me. Because I felt like, I want to go to there, as Tina Fey would say. I want to go to there. That's the level of relinquishing the worldliness and this fight, this struggle, this back and forth TikTok of being the hamster on the wheel. I was like, when she said that, and I was at a live discourse, in LA. Now, she stopped it this last Tuesday. She did her final live stream in LA because I think she's running for president. Anyway, I need to watch it. But you could go and see her speak like every week in LA when I lived there. And so here I am like 30 feet away from her, listening to her tears. And I'm thinking, I'm feeling, this is what's true to me. This complete surrendering of myself, yet my ego and my calling and the way that I think it needs to happen, my life, my dreams, my visions, versus just the truth that's already where it's already done. In your soul, that's in your soul print, your blueprint, your higher self, your hologram of self that is unfuckable with, right? But she said that, and I was like, I would love to have that much courage to be able to be so selfless in that way, to give myself over to love, to God, to be like, use me. Whoa. Now that's massive. And a funny point I want to make with this, if you know me, hi. If you don't know me, welcome. All of my info is down in the Show More box. And I recently redid my website, which I'm so excited about. Okay, so side note from my side note, check it out. Sign up, the very first page on my website. If this resonates, if you're interested in receiving a monthly email from me, join my email list. It's the very first page on my website. When you go there, you just scroll down, give me your first name and your email. You won't get spam or anything, but what you will get is a monthly email, my love letter, and you'll also receive, upon your first just like subscribing, my mini ebook called The Higher Self Blueprint of Mastery. So the point is that when you go to my website, you'll see all the things, read my bio. I've been a Reiki master, teacher, and facilitator for a very long time now, almost 20 years. And I remember there's a woman, and she always wanted Reiki, but she wanted Reiki on her terms. Which is hilarious. But she wanted Reiki on her term. I mean, it's not ridiculous. I'm laughing because of the story, the way it goes. So she used to say, oh, yes, darling, give me Reiki. But she'd be like, just do my pinky. I mean, literally, just do my pinky. Like, she didn't want the whole hands on. She would just let you, like, two hands touch her pinky for like not even 5 minutes. And that was enough for her. Now, she knew what she wanted, but she was deciding the scope, and she was deciding how much she was able to receive, like literally, right? Whereas Reiki, we know, is this eternal, it's love, right? It's love and only love. But so like that, when you pray, and I know if you're here watching this, whether it's today or later or 10 years from now or 2 weeks from now, that there has been at some point in your affirmations or your prayers where you have asked for something. Haven't you? We all have. You've asked for something, and perhaps you've asked for something to come into manifestation in a very specific way, which is what we've learned in our spiritual, The Secret, all of these new agey ways that we've learned to manifest. We've learned how to be very specific about what we want and vision board it, very specifically, down to the finest detail. You know, the plumbing works in my new apartment. My landlord is very kind and honest and communicates well. I don't have to pay a pet deposit. You know, whatever, all these things we can get very specific about when we manifest. And we've learned how to hone those skills, and maybe we're still learning that. And that is a skill. Yet the next skill is to then drop all that. And so instead of, you know, when we pray and we ask, or we meditate and we ask our angels or whoever it is that you work with to help bring things into being, we know the cosmic clause is always for the highest good of all. Oh, boom, blessings, Will. Thanks for signing in. You got to go back and watch the beginning. I know you will, but we're really just getting started here too. So this is very exciting. But there's this aspect, right, where she was only allowing us to Reiki her pinky finger. She was deciding, right? And that's what we do when we pray to God and we ask God, show me and use me, right? And we say, help me. And then God says, okay, here you go. And we're like, wait, but I don't want to be helped like that. I want it my way. And God laughs and God's like, oh, okay, you do it your way then. And then we're hamstering in the cage. And, you know, and again, this show is for those of us, of the collective, that are intrigued by this idea of this universal reincarnation, maybe, but even, you know, what is planted there is this hidden purpose and why your calling isn't manifesting. This show is not necessarily for people where their calling is manifesting. They have a different karma. They have a different route that they are taking in this life versus those of us, and I am included in that, where our calling isn't manifesting the way we thought it should, the way we think it should, or the way we had just grooved it in to our minds, that it needs to show up. And when it doesn't, we become sad, we get emotional, we get frustrated, we get angry, we get impatient, right? All these 3D things. So we're learning to unravel all that. We're learning to let love, right? Let go and let love. So bright, shine, nice. It's not that many people on the earth when compared to stars. I love that. You know, okay, that's like a whole other conversation we could have, but thank you for that comment. That's beautiful. I appreciate that. So I think we're going to go in. Now. We did our little reading about why we're even here, that this whole thing is inspired by this most recent tarot reading that's up on my channel, Zeroing Out Your Story. And we're going to go in deep. So what I prepared for us is an MP3, a recording. And what we're going to do is, I need to get a level, right? Is we're going to listen. And I'm going to be stopping and starting and sharing notes with our community and putting together these ideas here that you see on the board as the aim and the intention that we may understand with greater clarity, and so soften and relax into the now and get an understanding around this, like why our calling isn't manifesting, right? Why it's not manifesting yet. When I'm jumping through all the 3D hoops, I'm doing all the things that an actor would do. I'm doing all the things that a book writer would do. I'm doing all the things that an architect would do. I'm doing all the things that an artist would do, or whatever it is, right? Whether you're studying to be a doctor or an astronaut. But if it's not happening, it's not lining up, right? Why isn't it? And so it is my prayer and my affirmation always that everything I share here fully and totally serves your path of spiritual growth and sovereignty. So I'm going to play this. Let me get a little level, and we're going to be toggling back and forth. I'm going to use this little speaker, and this is the first time I'm ever doing something like this. So we're going to give it a go, my dears. So let's just see here. Let's just see. I want to make sure you can hear it. So if you're listening, tell me if you can hear it. Oh, wait, that's not it. This is the thing, because you get to the certain point where you're like, okay, God, use me, right? Can you hear that? And I know there's a delay between what I play here and what you hear there, but it's really important that you can hear it, because we've got 10 minutes where I'm going to be going back and forth, playing a little bit of this, sharing notes with you on it, so we can get to the depths of this, why our calling isn't manifesting and how it connects to universal and collective reincarnation. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you can hear it. I can see in the YouTube-ness thing how delayed I am, that I haven't even started playing the tape yet. The tape. You can tell I'm an 80s child. The tape. We haven't started playing the tape yet. So let me put this a little closer up here towards the speaker. And I thank you with all of my heart for your love and your patience and your community. You know, and that's what this has really turned into here at 4D Trinity, is community. And that wasn't a part of my vision. Remember how we were talking about the personal, you know, the way I think it needs to happen? My joy, my vision, my world, my life has nothing to do with community, really. Well, it didn't. And now it does. And so thank you for being a part of this community. Because I'm learning too. We're all growing together. And it's really just so beautiful. And I'm so very grateful. I'm so very grateful. So I don't know how far back this tape is, but the tape, here we go again with the tape. So let me get the little phone up and running, and we're going to just go for it. We're going to see. And then just let me know. So I think the tape has come close enough now where I am doing the, can you hear me now? And so if you can, give me a yes or a Y in the comment box, and I would be so very grateful. But I'm going to start again. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. And if it's too loud as well, let me know. Okay, level 1, first step, here we go. This is the thing, because you get to the certain point where you're like, okay, God, use me, right? And then you start doing that and exploring that. And then you go in the circles of feeling frustrated because you're doing that, yet what about me? And what about my turn? And what about, you know, what I want to do? And then you keep just realizing the more that you go, that it's less about what you want to do, especially as you keep saying, use me, God, I'm yours. And you know what really terrifies me about that, and that I've had to do a lot of deep work with, is my body. Because the more bubble of light, but like, you know, I don't want my back to keep going out and to have pain in my spine and stuff. But and that was one thing that came up for me, you know, when I was like, every day, just giving it to like, use me, use my hands, use my everything. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, I'm scared, you know, especially when it's out and when I'm in pain and when I can't move and I can't do what I want to do, you know, without that. That's where I'm like, and then I got scared and I was like, well, wait a minute, you know, it's like those kinds of 3D things, we bump into them. You're going to use me, you're going to keep fucking with my body, like, wait, you know, and it's like, but I have to let that go. I don't know. I don't know what it means. Okay. So I realize now I get to preface this by letting you know that this is a recording. You know, often when I'm here at home, I have boards. I have a couple boards in the house and notebooks galore. And, you know, there's, as an author, as a speaker, and all this good stuff, there's just a constant, beautiful stream of blessed, divinely guided information. And since working with Relavar, as I was talking about at the very beginning of this live stream, there's even more. And often the guidance is just press record, because there's going to be some stuff channeling through that's going to be quite amazing. And you're going to want to go back to it, to write about it, to talk about it, to share it. And so, again, this dear companion of destiny, this dear friend, was here, and we started having this conversation about all this stuff, about the tarot thing and about the hidden purpose and why isn't your calling manifesting and what's going on. And because he's an actor and he's does the auditions and goes on the things, and why isn't it happening yet, and the way that we think it wants to. So Spirit was just like, press record, start talking. Cut to then last night, Spirit's like, and then you're going to put that onto GarageBand on the Mac, and you're going to cut it up into little pieces, and you're going to talk about each part. So physical karma. So I put all of that in a bubble of light. So just so you have a background of what's going on here as I play this, right? That I'm actually having a conversation with someone, just so that you know. So this idea, I put that in a bubble of light, and it's a very big deal for me to share that publicly. Yet what I keep realizing is, as I say, show me God. I give myself to you, God, and where I let go is in not hoarding the story, is in releasing the story. And so a part of my story is that I was rear-ended. This is all in a bubble of light. I was rear-ended, 2013. And it wasn't even a huge car accident, yet it was so profound enough that what I know happened to me is that it cracked a huge chunk of tar and unlocked it that was encased, caked and baked into my crystalline tube. Now, if crystalline tube is a new term for you, I have a 4DT. I'll come back. I'll put a link up later. But it is the Sushumna, the divine central main channel, the main highway through which your energy body, your energy vehicle breathes in life force. Just how our lungs of the physical body breathe in and out, and we really don't have to think about it. We take in oxygen to nourish the physical form, right? Our physical human being here. On an energetic level, on a different level, there is this crystalline tube that houses the spine and the chakras, and through which that is our energy lung, or lungs, right? Is this tube. And that's how our energy body breathes in prana and life force into this main channel that then connects, meridians or channels, nadis, that connects through all of those smaller highways and byways that help to nourish and sustain and serve the nerves, all of the systems in the physical form and beyond it, okay? So when I had that rear ending, what happened is that hit from behind, my tube didn't get cracked open, but the tar, and again, if you're new with our teachings here, the tar is there's a lot we can go into it, but it is a collective of the toxic debris that accumulates in our auric field and in our channels, that main channel as well as the smaller channels, that is, yes, about pollution and about the toxic stuff in our food and medications if we've been on meds for ages. You know how they're hard on the kidneys, the livers, the lung, all this stuff. It's all of that 3D stuff, the pesticides in the food and alcohol and all the drugs and whatever all that is, the tar in our lungs from smoking if you're a smoker for 20 years. There's all that stuff, but there's also the mental and emotional continuum of tar, which is the unprocessed pain, trauma, victimhood, blame, shame, guilt, jealousy, all those polarized, very binary 3D gravitational, pulling us, anchoring us down into black and white, into duality, into what we call here binary, into the 3D, into the grid matrix of collective consciousness. Right? These things are very real when we're sucked in. Yet all of those unresolved aspects then begin to build up as tar, as a thick layer of dark, black, gunky, funky, junky stuff that when it's not healed and resolved over years, over lifetimes, because that stuff, the tar that you do not resolve through past lives, it's like those rollover minutes. It rolls over. Tar rolls over. I love Spirit. Spirit is so hilarious. It rolls over. You get those rollover points in your next life. Like, well, okay, you didn't work that out in the last one, honey. We're going to be working that out in this time. We're just going to lump that in with the rest of the gunk that you're going to, gather and store here. But that's a part of our gift, right? It's always the love. There's love everywhere. And part of our initiation into greater love and greater light, and to ascension and enlightenment, and to just being the truth that we have always been the whole time, is to unpack that, is to unlayer it, is to heal ourselves so that we will learn to know thyself, and know thyself divine. So the point is, rear-ended, I had a huge chunk of tar that was caked in, baked in into the crystalline tube that houses the spine and the chakras. And when I got rear-ended, that tar got broken up. And you see, when tar gets broken up, it's what was sleeping, what was all that anger and confusion and all the unhealed hurts from my youth and from past lives and whatnot, whatever was collected there, that stuff gets disturbed, right? And it's almost like when you have something in the body, like I know smokers who have been smokers forever. And as long as they keep smoking, their body learns to acclimate and to work accordingly and perfectly for them, for what they need to do in their smoker's body for their smoker's life. And I'm not being facetious. I'm being honest. Like, this is, and I've been a smoker. I know that dimension of it. Yet the moment we start to, maybe we walk, but then the moment we start to want to have a different experience in the physical body, and maybe you start to want to become a runner, but you've been smoking a pack a day for over 20 years, your lungs might feel a little funky, right? Have you ever felt that? My smoker people in the house, you don't have such a physical aptitude, but you start, or if you do, you start pushing it and going deeper, and you feel this burn in your lungs. Like, that's the tar is like getting aggravated. The tar's waking up and it's going, it's saying, don't fuck with me. Let me sleep here and just reside and be this coating of this sleepy, resistance, basically. This sleepy, numbed out layer between you and truth, between you and God, between you and love. So as long as we don't disturb the tars can be there for evs and just be like, and we get used to like living with the tars. But the moment that stuff gets disturbed and awakened, then it's like, brrr. It's like this evil genius has been awakened within us, and we call here, right, the tar body, it becomes a body, right? If it's allowed to, it will become an actual body in your auric field, of your energy bodies, like how you have a mental body, a physical body, spiritual body. We often, other teachers, I keep it pretty simple, but from time to time we do talk about the astral or the causal body. There's as many bodies as you want to have bodies, but the tar body can become one of them if we don't do a consistent practice to clear, to cleanse, to heal, to forgive. So with that said, my tar body that had accumulated, had gotten really sleepy and caked in that crystalline tube, had been disturbed, had been awakened, had been distorted. And so it was like waking this sleeping years and years and years of suppressed pain, of suppressed anger, of fear, of all that stuff that is tar, that is the vibration, that really is just fear. We can give it a million different names: jealousy, hate, greed, controlling, blame, shame, being a victim, all that stuff. But really, it's all fear. And all of my fear that was ready to be awakened from that divine alignment, that divine appointment of being rear-ended, got woken the fuck up. And it took me on a journey for almost 2 years of chiropractic readjustments, of having, I had never experienced that much pain in my body in my entire life. Like, I really did not know that one could experience that level of excruciation. I had no idea until I had that rear ending. Anyway, pinched nerves, up and down, every week getting chiropractic, every week, and doing physical therapy. I was a yoga teacher. I mean, I still am, but no longer do I do headstands. There's just certain things now my body just says, like, yeah, no, we're not going there anymore, because of this realignment. So the point is that there was 2 years of that, like, really maximal realigning and click-clacking, and I had never done chiropractor before that. And all of a sudden now I'm like a regular at the doctor's office, you know, getting these readjustments. They're very helpful, by the way. If you have those pinched nerves and those kinds of things, I highly recommend it as you're guided to explore that. Coming back though to our little recording and our little story time telling here. The point is that while that story, those tars, those issues that had gone up and that took me on a wild roller coaster ride of demanding that I look at these parts of myself and heal them, otherwise live hell on earth, versus acclimating and aligning and creating the correct conditions that I might begin to explore, experience, rest, digest, and relax into a heaven on earth realization consciousness. Oh yeah, I was like, no, we're going to heal this shit. Whatever this stuff is coming up, we are going to heal this because this is uncomfortable. It's stagnant. It's not allowing me to feel in love with life, to feel that I can love myself. And so I knew what the work was. And so I went and did it. And still, right, we do it. It's an inside job and it's a daily thing, right? That's all we do, right? We pay attention and we allow love. So cut to, the years have gone by since then. Rarely does my back something, and it doesn't even, I'm not even doing anything, and then something will happen. I'll be like, oh, here we go. Here's another like realignment, and I'll get that acute pain, and I can't move, and I'm laid up, and the back goes out. Got to call the chiro. The story, right? That's my story. Zeroing out our story. Remember, coming back to the tarot, coming back to, it's all going to make sense here, right? As we keep going. But that's been a part of my story now, is this back thing. I never had back stuff ever in my whole life ever. And now it's like, oh shit, this is a part of my story now. Okay. Well, what's happened is that that had become so healed over the time of those maximal adjustments and physical therapy. And then, you know, once in a blue moon, a little something would go out. I'd go see the chiropractor. Instantly, I'd be back. No problem. Back working out, exercising, doing whatever it is. Cut to, within the last couple of years, and I know that we're only talking about what was 2013 to 2019. We're working on 6 years here. So in the last couple of years, since I've been saying, use me, God, use my body, use my words, use my vision, use my hands, use my thoughts, use my creations, use me, God. You know, since I've been doing that, where would you have me go? What would you have me say? What would you have me do? You know, all of these prayers that we were talking about here. What's happened is I've been having more experiences with that stuff happening. And so in that little recording, as I was sharing with my friend, what was happening is I was saying that that's been a fear for me, where I'm saying, oh shit, is there a core? And pardon me, I keep cursing. And I do my best not to be always in I call it potty mouth. And I do my best not to, you know, but only as punctual points as it just naturally and authentically comes out. So I'll be mindful, so we can have an all ages show here. But what's happening is that the physical karma, you see, in that recording, I was saying, I don't know why it's happening. I don't know what is going on. Yet, upon listening back, I'm like, oh, yes, I do. This is a part of the story. This is a part of that karma. This is a part of the way that the physical form, the 3D form. So if you have this experience as well, you know, perhaps you can consider this, that this is a part of your story as well, that there's this continuation. We're going deeper and deeper into the subconscious strata, into the DNA, the atomic level of you, of I, of the collective that is being healed. And so if it feels that you're saying, use me, God, use me, source, use me, love, and some stuff keeps happening in your physical form, right? Understand that there is the potential that is because that source, that love, that God is using you to heal you, is using that force of love to heal you, to zero out that story of those karmas, to hit you back into 0 point, where there is non-polarity, non-duality, where you can then have the experience of that greater alignment and ascension in enlightenment towards that which is 4D consciousness, that's which we advocate here. That's what everything that we teach here. So again, that is the zeroing out through the healing of the physical body. And I see someone hopped on. KYK, hello, sup? Sup? I'm very well, darling. How are you? What's going on with me and my person? My energy is shattered. You know what? I'm so glad you asked. I need to keep going with our teachings today. But next week, KYK, I will be doing our Q&A, our Ask Me Anything. If you're new to this channel, everyone, every week, no, not every week, once a month, I do a show called Ask Me Anything, right? It's a Q&A where you can either send me an email. You can send it now, KYK, if you want. Send me an email. My email is down below in the show more box. And you can give me a few details if you want so I can go in a little deeper for you next week. Or you can come back and write in the comment box. But what happens is, oh, you're scattered, not shattered. Okay. But what happens is that I channel your higher self, whoever it is that asks the question, in alignment with, I use the Osho Zen Tarot. And I channel for those individuals that are guided to ask a question and receive divine guidance. And so not this week, but next week's show. So come back and ask your question or send me an email with it with a little more detail. And I'd be happy to get into that for you. Okay, darling? So getting back to our story. So that's number one. So we're going to keep going. Okay. So here we go. We're going back in, my friends. Going back in. Oh, shit. I said it again. I guess our little speaker went off. Here we go.
But I really and that was one thing that came up for me, when I was like, every day, just giving it to use me, use my hands, use my everything. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, I'm scared, especially when it's out and when I'm in pain and when I can't move and I can't do what I want to do, without that. That's where I'm like, and then I got scared and I was like, well, wait a minute. It's like those kinds of 3D things, we bump into them. You're going to use me. You're going to keep fucking with my body. Like, wait, and it's like, but I have to let that go. I don't know. I don't know what it means.
Okay. So we just went through that. We do know what it means now. We covered that. Now we're going to go.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, you can't, you have to just, okay then. And so the thing is though, is that if you do that, you get to a point, you get to the crossroads.
Oh, the crossroads. Okay, let me pause. So we get to this point. We get to the crossroads. The crossroads, my friends. The crossroads. Okay, notes. The crossroads is the alternate universe, is the parallel dimension, is a timeline shift, right? It is you in a parallel dimension. This is the crossroads, is where healing occurs. Now let's think about this here. The crossroads. Here's the crossroads. This is the horizon. This is the horizontal line. Okay? This is the world channel, is the binary that we talk about, is the binary consciousness of the grid matrix of collective consciousness. That's the matrix. When you hear them like exit the matrix, and all this stuff, which honestly, I have started using that hashtag too, because that's what we're basically talking about. Getting out of that of the limiting field of duality, of polarity. So this line here, the horizontal line, this is the horizon, the world channel, the binary. This is the tick-tock of the 3D living. It is the play of opposites of duality and polarity in the matrix. Grid matrix of collective consciousness. Okay? The vertical line is the God channel, is your crystalline tube channel, is the trinary. The vertical line is the crystalline tube of you, as above, so below. Cleaning, clearing, cleansing, healing from the DNA level, the subconscious level, up and down the chakras. So we have these two different perspectives that we think about here at this crossroads of self. We have this 3D version of us that lives in the world, that lives in the TikTok, that's like that movie, The Matrix, or there's many movies, right, that refer to that aspect. where we're just going through the motions. You're just clocking in and you're clocking out, and you go home and you eat the same food at the same time, and you watch the same show every day, and you go to sleep at the same time, and you make your car payments, and that's great. And we're not saying there's anything wrong with that at all, because there is an aspect. If you got that going on and you're in flow and you're content and you're happy, well, blessings to you. You're living your calling. Okay? Yet when there's more for us, if you're a part of the group where you're like, there's more for me, I'm not resonant with the TikTok. And maybe you did the TikTok. Maybe you did the binary, and now you're like, I'm gonna go trinary. I'm getting into spirit. I'm getting into like channeling this white light, just being at one with God, with source, with letting the divine flow through me and show me a different level of experience, a mystical level of experience here. Because I'm done with the TikTok. I know there's more. Spirit is calling. So we start to do those practices, and we're guided to people, places, things, and situations that help us turn on our lights of creation, where all the dots and the memory in you. Because remember, as we said at the beginning, your spirit and your soul are two in one, the same thing, and they cannot be fucked with. You cannot, you do not, School of Hard Knocks, your soul cannot be broken. Your spirit cannot be broken. That is the container that is eternal, that is the immaculate blueprint of God that you are, that is in your DNA, that is in every atom that makes you up and in the space in between those atoms. And so knowing that your spirit, that your soul contains and holds the holy hologram, the holy grail of you, that is perfect health, that is perfect consciousness, that is perfect alignment with love, that is unfuckable with, that is truth. That is always with you. That is always contained. Now, have we created the correct conditions that we may access those wisdoms, those divine ahas? Well, that's when we start meditating. That's when we start reading spiritual scriptures. That's when we start hanging out with new people. And maybe like last week's, alcohol sobriety and the higher self, when we start getting those messages from higher self, we start having the contact and we start hearing the voice of God through higher self. And it says, yeah, maybe don't smoke weed like 24 hours a day. Maybe like wait till 420, and smoke from that point. And then you start having these you're like, oh, well, this thing I've been smoking like from wake and bake till sleep and deep and whatever you want to call it, where your higher self is like, yeah, it just starts giving you these ideas where you can start having new realities, begin to create different conditions through the physical form, so you can experience different conditions through spirit, through your spiritual aspect of knowing thyself. And maybe it'll say, hey, stop drinking wine like it did with me. Maybe it'll say, stop eating meat. There's these different things, and it's different for all of us, and there's no right or wrong. But the point is that as we build and create the correct conditions to know thyself divine, to know spirit through our divine practices, what happens is we start to have that different perspective, that different perception. A multidimensional perception becomes activated through us. This divine, supernatural perspection becomes activated, where you start to see the matrix. You start to see it. You don't know. You might judge it and get polarized, and that's one path. Like I did. I was very polarized about it for a long time, and a conspiracy theorist, and I was very black and white. I got kind of sucked in, but I think that's part of the training too, is you get sucked in to the matrix, and you like try to fight the matrix and rage against the matrix, and then you meditate enough and you realize like, oh, fuck that. That's exhausting. And the matrix is the matrix. The matrix is just doing its job. That's what it's here to do. That's the school. That's the school of the hard knocks. And so you're like, well, fuck that. I don't need to rage against the machine anymore. You become enlightened little by little, and you start to realize, I can master the matrix. I can learn how to exit the matrix by shifting my consciousness, by simply focusing on love, by practicing self-love, by knowing thyself divine, by reading divine scriptures, by being in environments and with people and places that will stimulate, that will feed, that will nourish and fortify spirit. Seeds of enlightenment, seeds of the truth of you. And again, this is all about why your calling isn't manifesting, right? But those seeds then begin to awaken, and we begin to, at this crossroads, have a new perspective. And it's that story of, if you're on the horizon doing the tick-tock, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth in the 3D, that's what you will know, and that's fine. But the minute you start to go vertical, and you start to awaken the seeds of spirit within you on a deeper level, what happens is you start in the process of ascension. And so it's one thing to be at the crossroads, and there is a notion of, where these two lines bisect is the zero, is the heaven on earth. And so we get to know who we are in the center point of the tipping point of those crossroads. Yet with that, there's the story of, as we begin to ascend, and we meditate, and we heal, and we're loose from the chains that once bound us. What happens is we start to, it's like taking an elevator up. Say there's a 10-story building, and at the crossroads, at the base on the horizon, you're on the first floor. Well, if you look out from the first floor perspective, you see what you can see from that first floor. You start to ascend, you start to meditate, you start to heal your life, you start to generate spiritual qualities, love. You start to generate more love, the capacity to channel love, to hold love, to be love, and to be loved. Remember, it's circulation of that energy. It's not just a one-way path. Well, you begin that, a little elevator takes you up higher on that vertical line of self. And all of a sudden you're on the 3rd floor, and you look out and you go, whoa, I thought I was seeing some cool stuff from the 1st floor, but now I'm on the 3rd floor, and I can see over there, I can see there's trees, there's this beautiful field of orange blossom trees over there, whatever it might be. And then you keep meditating, you keep healing and loving and blessing, forgiving, and all that good stuff, and you're free. You get free of the matrix, because all the polarized duality, pain, the past, the future, the stuff that's not real is the matrix, is the illusion. And the more we drop the illusion, the higher up that elevator of consciousness can take us, right? Towards the 3rd eye, towards spirit, towards the higher chakras, towards that. And not that we disband the body, right? We learned how to master the body too. We learned how to love the body and be healthy and do what is in service to it for the highest good. But we eventually get up higher and higher on that elevator, and our perception is we're just our mind is blown, and we're just oh my God, I had no idea that I could see this far. I had no idea there was an ocean over there. I had no idea there was this beautiful rainbow thing going on over there with these crystals and whatever it might be. That's your vision for you. But we don't know unless we start to work with those crossroads. And those places are where the parallel dimensions of you exist. Those places are where the part of you that is your calling, that is in true alignment with the blueprint, the hologram, the Holy Grail hologram of yourself, that is your soul, that is your spirit. When you do this work, that's where you jump timelines. That's where your calling does manifest. But it manifests. And it manifests in ways that are not always the way, again, that your mind thinks it needs to happen. And that's why, as long as we're in the mind of our way or the highway, then that leaves very little room for divine, for love, for God, for light, for serendipity, for happenstance, for miracles to happen through us, to us, and for us, and in our communities around us, for our families, for whatever, all of it. If we've already got it figured out and we're trying to control the way it all happens, then that leaves very little space for the miraculous, for the magic, for the divine to come in and heal our bodies, to come in and heal our consciousness, to come in and heal that past for once and for all, so you can be free and drop into the now. And that's where you exist. That's where your calling is already done. Not the calling the way that you think it needs to happen, but the truth that you know is your truth. And you know why it's already done too. And we're going to get into this because you've already done it. Okay, let's keep going. because we got notes. We got notes, honey child. So let me make sure our little speaker's on. We're going to go to number 3. And I pray that this is okay.
Where you have to just keep going with God, or you're going to break off, and then you do an in-between dance, or you break off and you say, fuck this, no, I'm following my dreams, and I'm going to go this way. But if you've already gone this way enough, and you start to go that way, you will have the nagging knowing that there's another way, and that unless you're super clear and you can drop that with, instant ease and grace and never look backness, you're always going to know. You're always going to know. You'll always remember that you're here for this.
Okay. So what is this? This is universal reincarnation, collective reincarnation. So as we said earlier, what that is this concept, this idea, and tell me if it resonates as truth with you, because I know the moment I heard it, which was via Dave Wilcox, that I was like, all my DNAs were like, oh, he's speaking the truth. That is gospel right now. This concept, this idea that who's ever been here, incarnated in this planet before, through all time, however long we think time, whatever time is, dinosaurs, cavemen, cavewomen, whatever all that is, if you've ever been here before, you're here now. So even if you've taken thousands and thousands of years off between lifetimes of incarnating here, if you've ever been here before, you are here now. My theory is that 90% of those of us that are here have been here before, and there's another 10% that are helpers or beings or new crystal babies or whatever we want to give those names of those beings to, right? Now, this universal reincarnation. So what's going on with this, though? Could this have something to do with this idea of a hidden purpose? Well, let's keep listening. I'm so grateful you're here, everyone, whoever's here. I'm so grateful. I love this community. Okay, let's keep going.
For the show.
The show. Okay, thank you. The show. What is the show? Now, am I supposed to read here? Okay, we're all here. Everyone who has ever been here is here for this show, this collective. So now, why are we all here? If there's some truth to this, why are we all here? What's up with now? What's going on now in the timeline of the yugas, of the cycles, of the greater spheres, of the Mayan calendars, of all these divine, these oracles and these spiritual teachings? What's up with right now that we all have to be here on this planet? Well, I don't know. And that's part of the fun. Yet what I do know is that it has to do with love. With love, we're going to say it, with Christ consciousness. It has to do with the reawakening of the Christ consciousness. Of that consciousness, again, that is that 4D Trinity. Why we're here, what we're doing here is awakening those seeds of love, is that heaven on earth consciousness. So let me read. The myth, though, right? The myth, this universal reincarnation, the myth. What's the myth? What is the big story? So why are we all here? What's the big story? Well, we're going to create it together. Just how I say we create we create the 4D. We are creating it right now. Me speaking, you listening, our brains, our hearts, like communing and telepathizing and conjuring, by way of love and light, not by way of manipulating and needing and wanting and greeting, but out of divine creation, allowing these notions and these ideas to come to pass. So I will tell you this, is that, again, what's the difference between the way that we think we need things to work out, the way I needed my calling to manifest, the way that I was comfortable with allowing it to be for me, had to do with me being a drunk monk on a mountain who always had a supply of wine, a cat, and didn't have to deal with people in the world. I was like, ugh, people. Ugh, just give me wine, give me a cat, some chocolate, give me a little house like a hermit, like a monk on a hill, on a mountain somewhere. Just get me away from these people, this world, this crazy. I just going to write my books until I die. And that was this very fantasy, romantic notion for me, that where I was like, just in love with this idea. And that was like my calling. That was my calling, you know, yet it didn't manifest. I kept trying to make it manifest. I kept trying to drink wine. And I have written some books, you know, yet yet as that concunked, as the tick-tock of the horizon, right, met and interfered, as the vertical line of my spiritual path kept growing and strengthening, as that interfered with the horizon tick-tock of me just having this vision of like drinking wine till I die and writing my books, and very happily, I mean, I was very content with that vision, never having to go out in the world and deal with people, never having to build community, never having to really be seen, you see. And that's how the tar body would have it. The tar body would have you do things your way. Yet the more that I prayed and meditated, and then especially when I started getting into that use me God, oh, forget it, game over. Forget it. You know, you start saying, God, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? And God's like, well, okay, breaker 10-4, here's your little reading of what we're going to invite you to do today. And at first you might have resistance, but then over time you start like giving in, and you're like, well, okay, I'll do this on the list. I won't do all those things, but I'll do this on the list, God. Because I like the idea of that one. Those ones, I don't like the idea of that. So I'm going to just do the one that I like. And little by little, you start doing more and more of that. Well, what happens is that little by little, as you know, if you follow me on Instagram, or I spoke about this on last week's 4DT when we did alcohol sobriety and the higher self, is that my ex attempted suicide in 2015. And it was, besides that car accident in 2013, it was like one of the most devastating life crisis, like 3D experiences I had ever had. And it led me to drink. I started drinking wine. And anyway, so long story short, because I talk about this from time to time, and it's you know, almost full disclosure. I don't tell you everything, but the point is that I got into a pattern, and I enjoyed happy hour. I grew up in Ireland, so I knew how to drink. But of course, over the spiritual years and the Reiki and the yoga, you know, there's a balance that starts to happen. Yet after that life crisis, man, did I start drinking again. And I started drinking like how I was drinking in Ireland, which is daily. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're happy, you're fulfilled, you're healthy, and you're in peace, you're in joy. It's like, who am I to say? Who are we to judge anyone for whatever is their path? I'm not here to tell you. But I know for me is that after that experience, I started drinking, and I started drinking more and more and more, to the point where I was drinking every single night, and a lot, like at least a bottle of wine a night. And so what happened though is I'm still in and amidst my hangover, I'm saying, God, use me. Right? So eventually higher self comes in one day and says, hey kid, I'm halfway through a bottle of wine. I'm drinking a glass, and higher self just swoops in and says, okay, kid, how about you just never drink wine again? How about you just stop drinking wine? And I was like, right now? I had posted this on the Instagram, and higher self was like, yeah, right now. And I was like, do I get to finish the bottle? And higher self was like, no, you can finish that glass. We'll let you finish the glass, but you're going to throw the rest of the bottle down the sink. And I was like, anyway, so that's a story, right? And I paused for a moment, and my tar body, the part of me that wants to get high and get buzzed, and that was also using that cycle of addiction, that pattern, as a numbing pattern. And really, I mean, and I say this in a bubble of light, but having those drinks over the time of that life crisis, especially at the real deep, gunky, I mean, heart-wrenching, I mean, I must have cried for 24 hours a day for months and months and months. And so it was a soother. It helps to numb the edges out. I don't take meds. I don't take Valium or Xanax or, you know, so I was like with the wine, I was the wine girl. And it helped to soften the depth of the I mean, the things that were going on in my relationship with that partner. And he did survive, and he's alive still, and God bless, and we're very good friends, but we're not together anymore. But we did a lot of healing together. So that wine helped to a degree to get through a certain part of it. But at the same time, then it became a pattern and addiction that was for after then several years of that being a part of my path. Higher self was like, this is no longer serving you. But also that daily wine, my daily bread as wine, was so enmeshed with that vision of being that drunk monk on the mountain, that hermit that would just write their books and not have to deal with world in the life, and just like, you know, write as many books as I could until I died and just be like, die peacefully with my cat. This drama, you know, dream fantasy. Well, when higher self came in and said, you know, hey kiddo, how about you stop drinking wine now? And I paused and I made the deal, right? I was like, well, can I finish this glass? And okay, we'll let you finish that glass, but you got to pour the rest out. You know, I like wangled with higher self, with God, which is hilarious how we do that, right? But it met me where I was able to meet it. And I said yes. The vortex was open, the energies were aligned, and for some reason, even though I already had my buzz on, all the spiritual, the vertical work I had been doing in and amongst being hungover, in and amongst being frazzled, and you know, whatever all that stuff is, still true to spirit, still going in and meditating, still praying, still doing my work to the degree that I could, that had accumulated, had amassed in my feeding my light body. Yet I was equally feeding my tar body with all the alcohol. But I had amassed at least a certain shift in the tipping point of my light body, where when higher self came in and said, hey kids, stop drinking wine, I was able to pause, make a deal. Can I at least finish this glass? But then I was able to say yes, like within like a couple minutes of that whole aha coming over me. And the moment I said yes, I was carried by a power and a force and a strength. And I'm still carried, and I have no craving, and I have no wish and no want. I have nothing for that at all. And anyway, there's a whole other story. I talked about it in last week's 4DT. But to just give you this idea that we have this story, and as long as I was stuck in my story of being the drunk monk on the mountain, being this hermit, there's no way I could participate in this universal collective reincarnation. There's no way that I would ever be talking right now. If I was still drinking, there's no way that I would be channeling, I think, Relivar. There's no way that I would have this notion of this hidden purpose that perhaps you are connecting with too. This hidden purpose of like, why isn't my calling manifesting yet? My calling was calling me to be a drunk monk on the mountain, and right. And God has another plan. God's like, yeah, okay, that's cute, girl. That's nice. But you know what? There's more. There's more going on. And the moment that I let that wine go, the more I was being shown. And the less it had to do with how I thought things need to show up. And the more it had to do with me doing these shows, with me being like, okay, hey, what's up? I'm an author and I have these teachings, and let's like get down. And I'm going to start doing tarot readings. And I'm going to start, you know, like all this, like it was like, okay, no, you're not going to be a hermit. You're going to be in the world, and you're going to learn to be not of the world. And you're going to take all these grid teachings, the collective matrix teachings, and you're going to start sharing them. Instead of being on the mountain and writing them, and they might be found someday after you're dead. You know, it's like, no, it's right now, because there is a party, there's a myth going on. So my calling, what I thought was my calling from my mind, was to have this very simple drunk monk on the mountain, being this little author, right? Yet the myth, and I invite you into this, your myth, the story, like if we're all here, what are Jesus' name are we all doing here at this time? If there's some truth to this, and I love just sitting with this idea, but if there's this thing going on, what I realized at a certain point, when I was coming out, right, and detoxing from being this drinker all the time, and as I was getting clearer and clearer, higher self would say, okay, so are you ready now to be the adventurer? Are you ready now to quest your myth? And I said, well, wait a minute. What's this myth? And higher self is like, oh, come on, girl. You know the myth. And then I started realizing and remembering like, uh-oh, wait a minute. I do know. The myth is this much bigger story. Again, it's the story. It's not the story we create in our mind of how we think it needs to show up and be, et cetera, but it is the truth again, we talked about this at the beginning of this video, is the truth that you are born into. It is the Holy Grail hologram. It is the imprint, your blueprint that you have become, that you have chosen, that you are already built in with. Those seeds of creation within you. It is the vision, it is the visionary, it is the vision that you were born, that is in your heart, that is truth, that is not made up by your mind, that is not something that you're creating or making from your mental sphere. It is from spirit, it is from truth, it is from love. And when higher self said, like, yeah, you ready to join the myth, which has to do with this, which I didn't know at the time, I was like, oh shit, which is this huge story that has to do with a much larger version of who I am versus the version of me hiding on the mountain and just getting drunk every day and hiding and not being a part of community, not taking the teachings, not taking the gifts, the talents, abilities that you have, that I have, and sharing them in the world. And all the ways that the heart vision has shown me that, the much bigger picture that can include writing all those books, that can include having a cat, and I could have a house on the mountain. But that obviously at this point in my life, higher self is like, but that excludes you being this alcoholic wino woman. It's not, these two stories are not going to go together for you. So I had to suck it up. School of hard knocks. I had to say, okay. And I didn't have to. I chose to, willingly. And with that, I was carried. So again, the myth. What is your myth? It has to do with this universal and collective reincarnation. There is a story here that's happening. Again, I don't know what it is. I know it's good because the more I surrender to it, the more I surrender to it, the more synchronicity in my life. I mean, constantly, like it's ridiculous. Like it's off the chain ridiculous. Just constant synchronicity everywhere, all the time, just with everyone. You're so in the now. You're so in the flow. It's so on all the time. You're on, you're turned on, you're trusting. You have the mystic gift of trust. Boom, you're just allowing. You're like, boom. You don't do anything except what you're told to do by God and the higher self. And I know the ego frickin' hates hearing that. Yet, any preacher, if you vibe with preachers and teachers of a certain order, they will say that, you know, not my will, but thy will. And that's a hard one to get through. And especially if you have knee-jerk reactions with the word God, or you were brought up and it was, you know, beat into you and it's all gunky and polarized, then obviously this is not going to be words singing to your ears, perhaps. Yet, if there's any little point in it at all that does resonate, I invite you to just allow it to dissolve on your tongue like a sweet lozenge. Like a divine nectar of a sweet lozenge. So we're going to keep going. But so universal reincarnation, collective reincarnation, the big story, the myth. What is your myth? Because I know my myth, the story that my higher self has been, the truth in my heart that's been talking to me since I was a little tiny boo-boo, has known a much larger version of me than the ego tar body version of me that would be happy to be on the mountain drinking and having nothing to do with the world as we know it. Oh gosh, did I just lose our place?
You know what I mean? And it's like you have to just, okay then. And so the thing is though, is that if you do that, you get to a point, you get to the crossroads. Where you have to just keep going with God, or you're going to break off, and then you do an in-between dance, or you break off and you say, fuck this, no, I'm following my dreams, and I'm going to go this way. But if you've already gone this way enough, and you start to go that way, you will have the nagging knowing that there's another way, and that unless you're super clear and you can drop that with, instant ease and grace and never look backness, you're always going to know. You're always going to know. You'll always remember that you're here for this.
For this.
For the show.
The show. The big myth, the big story, the adventure.
The big show that we're all here for. I don't know what the fuck that means, but that seems to be what they're pushing me towards the edge of the cliff. And it's not always comfortable.
Okay.
But I can't do that anymore. I know I can't do that anymore. I've tried, and I can't do that anymore. Because I've gone past the point. But there's many, you included, and you keep doing this, you know? And it's okay. It's okay. Because that's what we do. That's exactly the dance steps.
Okay. So we learn how to be happy. We learn, again, I said that earlier, the TikTok, the binary, the 3D, the matrix. It's okay. It's fine. No one is saying you need to 4D it. No one is saying you need to go into the land of trinary. No one is pushing anything, any agenda on anyone. I'm simply here to share that there is another way, that there's different ways to look at things, to consider and to be open to. Yet there's that sense that we learn how to be at peace here in the TikTok. We learn, right, how to be happy here. And these are the important first steps. We're going to keep going.
Is that all that stuff that we think that we need to do and have those things, it's like, it doesn't mean we can't have and do and be with those experiences. It's just that it has almost nothing at all to do with what we're really here to connect with and to be a part of. Yet it does, because of course they're going to use us.
Okay, so two things. And let me just make sure where we're at. We're at 4:14. Okay, so wow, our dreams don't have anything. Did you hear what I said? Our dreams don't have anything to do with why we're here this time around. Like, how can I even say that? Now, granted, I was channeling there on the floor, but how can we even say that, right? That our dreams don't have anything to do with why we're here this time around. The reason why they were saying that is because, okay, there's levels. There's this point of that it definitely has something to do with it, because the things that you've been conjuring in your mind and manifesting or attempting to manifest, you're calling your way, is always inspired by the vision, by the seeds of truth that are a part of your Holy Grail hologram, that are a part of the blueprint of your soul, of your spirit as perfect and perfection, and that knows how it fits into the greater whole of the divine cosmic play. And especially speaking about the big story right now in the greater myth that we're all, if we should choose it, to play out as we go more vertical and less horizontal. So your dreams don't have anything to do with it. And we're going to be getting into that shortly, which is, it turns me on so much. It is so hot where this conversation goes. So understand that this that we create here with the mind, that level of dreams, when we get to enough of this vertical alignment, enough of this like giving yourself over and considering the bigger myth that you're here to be with, and you know, right? What's your story? Do you have a version of you that is the small story, like me, drinking wine on the hill and not really doing anything in the world, versus this like ridiculous story that I came in with in my heart that I've always known, and that over the years of practicing in spirit, I've been shown little glimpses more and more and more of the potential of that myth, of that adventure, if I am to choose it. Like, do you have that as well? Do you? Are they very different? Chances are they are. Now, there's going to be more depth in that, so we will be going back into that in this recording. But I also say in that, even though, you see, and there's some contradictions, seeming contradictions, because there's this sense of like, even though the vision that I think I've made up, that I've made up with my thinking mind, while it still has some roots in here, because we are saying that if you're an actor or an author, as I am, it doesn't mean that, you know, you living your dreams, working towards your calling and manifesting that, it doesn't mean that you're not going to publish and write books. It doesn't mean you're never going to act again or sing again or whatever the thing is. It just means that the way that you have conceived that it needs to work out in order for you to have it your way, well, that all gets to be let go of. so that, again, mystic energy, divine source, God, can come in and create through you. Now, and I say in that little recording there, that last little snip, that there's this idea, though, that they will use you. So there's that juxtaposition of like, well, your dreams, it's not, it's not the way that you think it needs to be, and that your dreams don't have anything to do with why we're here, universal collective reincarnation. Yet that they will use you. I say something like, but yet at the same time that they will use you, your gifts, your talents, your abilities. Well, who are they? They're your oversoul group. As you know, I'm an author. If you don't know, I'm an author. This is one of my books called The REIKI Apprentice. It's my autobiography, and it sums up my 3-year apprenticeship with my grand Reiki master, who is also a trance channeler, who still probably, I don't know, I haven't seen her in 17 years, but I'm very grateful for the apprenticeship, 3 years I spent with her. And she channels Rasputin of Siberia and an entity called the Scroll. And she discerns teachings that are metaphysical and multidimensional, specific to one's healing of thyself and how to share healing with others, but also that offer maximal guidelines for being a master of your time and space in this 3D, and understanding and knowing that once you master this matrix here, see, as she taught it, she said it as the grid. And the moment that she talked of it as the grid matrix of collective consciousness, which is now how I am guided to speak and teach about it, which is converging the word grid and this word matrix that we're all very familiar with, and putting it all into this new kind of mode of understanding that it is the collective consciousness. Well, the moment she started channeling these teachings, I knew that I was here to continue the teachings, to share them. I had a divine resonance. So anyway, the whole story, it's very juicy and powerful, if I do say so myself. You can check it out on Amazon. It's on, what else is it on? It's on Kobo. I think it's on Kindle and on paperback. And I'm working towards getting it on, the Barnes and Noble and all that stuff. But in the meantime, there's a few channels you can check it out and download it and buy it. But there's a little inscription here where the channel is channeling, and she says, your oversoul group. And someone says, your oversoul group, who are they? And the answer is, this is your invisible team, your band of angels. Think of them as entities that help hold space for you, protect you, and guide you during your earthly journey. So in this way, when I said just there in the recording that they are going to use you, it means that, right, your team of angels, those divine light beings that are just constantly surrounding you, your legion of angels that hold space for you in this earthly incarnation. Yet also it is the spark of love. It is the spark of light that just is. And that is God, that source, that power, that love will use you. So your calling isn't manifesting. You're a dancer, your calling isn't manifesting yet, but you go to all the dance auditions, and you're a ballerina, and you're doing your practice, and you're following your truth in your heart. Yet it's not manifesting yet the way that you think it should, or on the certain timeline that you think it should. I should be making X amount of money by now. I should have been on the Bolshoi Ballet. I should be touring, Sabrina, the other ballerina, has a gig with that ballet company. Why aren't I? And I'm a better dancer than her, or whatever the story might be. Well, just because the dream, the way that you think it's supposed to happen, isn't happening yet, doesn't mean, and given this, what they were saying here, that your dreams don't have anything to do with the actual big story, with the big myth, with the collective dance, the collective dream of wherever we're taking this planet. We're to love. It's all love. But that even given that, that's that juxtaposition, even given that, the gifts, talents, and abilities as a dancer, as a veterinarian, as an astronaut, as a whatever you are that you came in with, that God is still going to use those. So it's not like you came in with all of these abilities to fix cars and that God's not going to use that. There's more. There's more, though. There's qualities and powers and abilities that you have that are not awakened yet, you see. As long as we stay here in the TikTok, as long as we stay here on the horizon in the 3D consciousness in the binary, they will not be awakened. And I see my battery's getting low. Let me go get my charger. Pardon me, I will be right back. Okay, so we're gonna have to finagle this a little bit. Ooh, maybe I can just plug it right in here. Let's see if we can do that. That would be awesome. All right, so this is gonna make more sense, I pray. Okay, so we're gonna keep going. Let me get this closer in here. And again, I love and appreciate this community. I'm so grateful to be with you here today. So thank you for joining. If you're just hopping in, blessings and welcome. Go back and watch this from the beginning and, when it's over. And thanks for saying hi in the comment box. So let's keep going.
And all the talents, the gifts, the abilities. Yet, there's more talents, gifts, and abilities. There's more things that are yet to be explored that will remain unplugged in, that will remain unlit, as long as we keep going this way.
Okay, so that's what we were just saying, that there are gifts, talents, and abilities that you have that you don't even know are there. And as long as we keep focusing the vision, the calling, what we think, why we're disappointed, remember, suck it up. Stop, and I say this with love and with light in the bubble of light. But as my old teacher did, there's a point. She would let you process. She would let you cry. She would let you go through all the emotions. And then there'd be a point where she'd stop handing you the box of tissues and she'd say, suck it up. Stop being a baby about it. Master up. There's a bigger look, universal reincarnation. What's going on? What's the hidden purpose? We don't know. Let's stay in the not knowing and allow love and light. But the point here with this recent passage is that there are gifts, talents, and abilities that we will never know, that will never be activated. They will never see the light of day in this 3D matrix as long as we tick-tock, as long as we are stuck to the ways that we think it needs to show up. And the sooner that we unglue ourselves from the story, from the past, from how, and also remember, the past is how it's worked out for you in past lives. Because if you have those gifts, talents, and abilities in this life, then you've had them over and over and over and over and over again. And so you're bringing all those things in with you that are you're part of your natural hologram, that are specific and unique to you. While we all have access to everything, those are yours. And you've done it before. So again, it's great that, you're a great skier. It's great that you sing in a barbershop quartet. It's great that you can paint, I don't know, like Van Gogh. It's great that you can play the piano, like Chopin. Maybe you were Chopin, but it's like, what if there's just as many genius activating powers in you, just waiting to be activated at the right time and space, not just for your higher good, but for the higher good of all. And that's the point here that is being made in this little recording and in this little section, is to be mindful of that's where we're going, that's what we allow when we continue the vertical balancing of the scales of this crossroads. And we will never, never is a pretty big word, right? But we don't get to know who we are. We don't get to know all those talents and abilities as long as we're stuck in thinking that we only have, even if you're very gifted, of whatever your gifts are. There's more. You see, the universe, and really, it's not, the universe is also limiting. The universe is just the matrix. That we made that up, that term, that whole thing, we made that up. So the point is that beyond what we think we know, that is space and time, there is an eternal, I don't even know what to call it. What do I call it, Spirit? There's this eternal plane that has reflections of you in it, that's fully lit up. Again, talents, abilities, gifts that are inherent to you and your nature, to your divine blueprint, but that we don't know as long as we keep thinking we do know. Let's keep going.
Without fully surrendering, like that, just you keep, you know?
Okay, you keep what? You keep surrendering, you keep allowing.
I know I've been here so many times and you've too. I'm going to just tell you right now, you have danced, you have sang, you have been on the stage, you have won awards, you have done all that a million times over.
Okay, so remember, like I was just saying a minute ago, if you're a dancer, a singer, an actor, a painter, and it doesn't even have to be the artsy creative, because you could be, again, the mechanic, you could be the veterinarian, you could be like really good at neuroscience or whatever the thing is. But like, if that's your thing and those are your gifts and you're like, boom, like this is where my joy is, this is where my talents are, chances are you've done that already a million times before. And see, we're on a rerun. We're on a rerun pattern here. We think now we're in it this lifetime and it's about us, and it is about you. But remember, it's about this too. If we should have it hidden purpose, this too, the myth, the bigger story that is about the collective, the greater whole, and not just the greatness of you individually, of me on the mountain doing things my way. But it's about, what if we all plug in together and start to activate these hidden gifts, these hidden abilities, right? And this idea that we are rerunning just what we know from past lives. Like me, I know from going in, I have, every time I've been on this planet, I have had something to do with sacred scrolls, with being an author, with being a writer, with being a publisher, like every fractal aspect that is related to writing, to writings, to the teachings of this grid matrix in some way. Like I have been a part and a parcel of that. Like that's my, that's the space that I hold. And I know that. Everything from being a whale many times over as the record keeper, you know, of the Akasha in a physical form. That's what I know for me. So again, we're here again, and here we are again, and you're a dancer again, and you're an actor again, and you're a singer again, and you're a whatever, a veterinarian again. And you're like, but this is my jam, this is my shit. I know who I am here. And I expect to be met with glory and with fame. I'm joking. I'm putting those words in your mouth. But you know what I mean? Like we come here and then we get like our knickers in a twist when it's not working out. When we don't get that record contract, even though you know you're a kick-ass fly singer and your music is dope and you got the contacts and the whatever, but it's not working. Why your calling isn't manifesting? Well, what's the higher purpose? What else is, what's in the larger picture going on? We don't know. We're going to stay in the I don't know-ness. We're going to allow. But chances are, many past lifetimes over, you've done this already. And so we're stuck in this groove of thinking that we need to get those awards again. You've already won the awards. You've already won the Grammys, you see. You've already toured the world with the band. Or you've already saved all the horses as a veterinarian superstar. You've already gone to the moon and back, you know, in a different dimension. Whatever it is. And so I say this with love, over it. I'm talking to myself as well, because there's very specific ways, you know, on a different plane. Before the drunk monk on the mountain with the wine and the cat and the writing, before that, I had very specific ways. I was a singer for almost most of my early life. And I had very specific ways that I needed to be on Rolling Stone, you know, cover of that magazine. I needed to win Grammys. I needed to be the first woman singer to do this and, you know, and very ego oriented and driven. And that's okay. Again, it's okay. It's all stepping stones. But it had nothing to do with integrating a greater whole, a greater picture, a bigger picture of a collective. It had everything to do with me and my way. And that's okay. So we've done it before. We've already won the awards, whatever the things that you think you want now. And even just put that in your pipe and have a puff, right? Energetically, figuratively, metaphorically, because that helps to just relax the ego. The part of us that thinks it needs the accolades and the validation. Honey, you do not need to be validated. That's the play of the TARS. That's the ego. That's the thing that keeps you in the TikTok right here on the horizon versus in the vertical in the ascension. So so just imagine, just allow that idea. And how does that shift in the alchemy of you? How does that shift your world, honey? How does that shift? Like, oh shit, you can freaking relax now. You can chill out and relax and know that you've already done it. It's already done. And there's a different thing, perhaps, to be done through you, for you, and for the greater whole in this universal reincarnation, in this hidden purpose, if you were to have it, if you were to receive it. So let's keep going.
It's like, this is just it's like, they're like, if you, like, there's something else that's here to happen in this lifetime, and we can still tap dance and we can still sing songs. We will. We're going to get a massive celebration. We're going to do that for the rest of our lives. Yet the way that we have this limited, the scope of what we think we need for it to be, it's like, that's all they keep showing me. They just keep putting the dynamite in there, and they just keep, it's erasing. Just erase me. Just keep dropping atoms. Just keep, like, I don't really know who I am. I don't really know anything, you know, kind of a thing. Like, over and 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 over.
Okay, so this idea, right, we've talked about this before about dropping atoms. We know, and let's be reminded that in this collective matrix of, in this grid matrix of collective consciousness, that these are all the stories. This is all the past. This is time and space, all the feelings, all the words, all the definitions. This is a reflection of the WWW, of the World Wide Web, in consciousness form. This is the storehouse where all of the feelings, experiences, emotions, definitions, where everything is stored here. And now that's where our stories are stored as well. When we heal our lives, when we drop the atoms, when we erase our stories, when we zero out our stories, what happens is there's less of us here to be bound by the matrix. There's less of us here to be limited by those stories, by the past, by the future. There is more of us existing in the now because we are not pulled by the stories, by our pain, by fear of the collective. And so we are free. We drop atoms. We literally drop atoms. If there's less stuff making you up as you heal your life, as you make peace, as you forgive, as you drop judging others, yourself included, you stop having as much mind. This is all mind. The matrix, it's all mind. And as you stop having that much mind about yourself, about the world, where that's where the divine can come in and reset that mental configuration that you think you are in this grid matrix of collective consciousness. So we say you drop atoms, you erase yourself, you erase your pain as you heal, as you meditate, as you invite in God, as you invite in whatever word you want to call it, love, light, source. You zero your story, like we were talking at the beginning with regard to the tarot reading I did in this most recent week. And we do it over and over again. And it's like that movie, there's that movie with Angelina Jolie called Wanted, and I love it. It's a little violent, but I love that movie. And there's the main character, he has the TikTok, he has the horizon, he has the horizontal life, and he's clocking in at the office and leaving and, you know, eating the same thing every day. And it's a very whatever life, that's how his life is, but he knows there's more for him. He somehow gets involved with this team of people, and basically in a bubble of light, he gets dragged into this situation. He wants more in life, right? He's asking, he's kind of conjuring, wanting more. He knows there's more. He gets dragged into this situation and into this like basement where he's basically beaten, and they're like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I don't know." And they beat him up some more, and then they throw him back on the street. And this happens over and over and over, where a different guy comes in then, and a different guy slaps him around. He's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Oh, no, oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. I said it incorrectly. Forgive me. Let's rewind." They're knocking him around, and they're like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm going to make it up." He's like, "I'm Jonathan Sebastable." And they're like, "Boom, boom, boom. Get out of here." Drag him back in again, knocking him around. "Who are you?" I'm an accountant." Boom, boom, boom. Throw him out again. "Who are you?" I live at 54 Ellinger Place." And they beat him up some more, and they kick him out. And then like this goes on and on and on. And then finally they drag him in and they smack him around. They're like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I don't know." And they're like, "We can work with you now." Boom. That's what the universe is like. That's what God is like. The moment you stop knowing, the moment you stop having it all figured out, the moment you drop control, when you stop needing it to be and show up the way that you think it needs to be in order for you to be validated, in order for things to make sense in a logical way, the more you get you out of the way, that's when the game really changes. That's when spirit, that's when God, that's when love, that's when a force and a power that is us, that is also beyond us, can move through us. It's when we don't have it all figured out. So I know that was a little bit of a gory tale to tell with regard to that. And I don't wish any violence upon anyone, although I do love that movie. It's the metaphor of it, where you got to just be broken down to the point where you don't freaking have anything figured out anymore. And then that's the point where spirit's like, okay, finally, there's enough room in there that I can come in and dance through you and show you a few things under grace. Okay, so let's keep going. We're almost done. We're almost there. And I thank you and I love you and I'm so grateful for this beautiful community. So let's go.
And I don't know how, I mean, even just saying that to you right now, I know it's a big deal, and I place love here, because it's not easy to hear this stuff, you know. It's not. I don't want to hear all this. I wanted it my way. But they're saying, you know, they're like, kid, you haven't even got a fucking clue. If you just shut up for a minute and just don't think about anything.
Don't think about anything. So we often will say here, I have no mind about it. And I invite you, this is a new training, right? Instead of saying, I don't care, but it's to cultivate this notion of having no mind about a thing, a person, a president, a situation in the world, whatever it is. Because remember, if the whole universe here that we've created, that we have an agreement collectively upon, is made of mind, is made of atoms, if you don't have any mind about it, then you are automatically, like really sincerely, don't have a judgment, a thing to say about it, like really where you're passionately, emotionally attached. Then the grid, the matrix cannot attach itself to you, you see. So you can say, I don't care, but really think about thinking about things a new way and considering this notion of I don't mind. I have no mind about it. And in that way, when you don't have any mind about it, when you don't think anything about it, again, spirit can come in and use you. There's less notions about how the world is and that you've figured it all out, you see. Everything is allowed to be reset in a most high divine manner that is not pronounced, that is not designated by you, but by the I am that is all of us, that is love, that is light, that is God. So let's keep going.
I was like, this is hard. Like, if someone hasn't gotten enough awareness yet of the leverage and you're still doing this, I was like, this is a tough message. And then they're like, boom, you're going to talk about that. And I was like, yeah, we better, because that's hard. You know, and the irony is that we both know that that's how the 3D does work, though, too. You know, that's the exact moment you might get that call or that call back or the whatever. But that's the exact energy that allows it to care about you, though. And that's the irony. That's the thing that's not in the book about the law of vibration. Because the law of vibration is very kindergarten, though. Because we're still dealing with energy. But like Adama says, and like Walter Russell, and like those that know, that once we get to this next level that they're showing me, the Taurus, this is not about, we're not playing with vibration. That's why the Merkaba is like, no, okay. We're not playing with vibration anymore. We're not playing with energy. We have mastered energy, or we are mastering the matrix. We are mastering that shit. We are mastering ourselves on a whole new level, which is now we have a new playground to play with that is white light. That is, I don't know, is it electricity? It's magnetism. It's magnetism is what it is. It's not density anymore. So there's this new thing, and I feel this flush like in my body right now, like from in my tube, like this heat that's just like, and just talking about it. And I think I'm just supposed to talk about it. I think that's what I'm supposed to do. And I do know, though, the more that I have let go of, thinking that I know, or being attached to my dreams, to the dreams that have led me here.
Okay, so again, dreams are good, right? Following that calling that you have co-conjured with the vision that you were born with in your heart is a part of the play, is a part of getting you into the here now, right? So we're not talking about dismantling them. But if your calling isn't manifesting just yet, understanding that you living your truth, living your dream is a part of it, of you going for that dream is a part of it. Yet it's relinquishing the attachment to the ways that things need to show up in order for you to be validated and be happy. That's a part of the alchemy there. So I made a mention about the Merkaba and the Taurus, and now I'm integrating these teachings and we're going to go into it deeper. But just because I know there's a few of you out there that will watch this that will be interested or intrigued, there's a sense, and I've talked about this briefly before, but that running our Merkaba, which I've done for almost 20 years now, since I learned it, since the year 2000, almost every day, there's a sense of, yes, using that tool to master, right? To be a master in the matrix, to understand how it is to walk with and to relax into the vibration, the frequency, the love. I mean, that's love is very powerful. And to be able to relax into that place, into that space, and to trust it, and to get to know who you are as love is a part of the initiation. Yet it's still a part of the 3D. It's still a part of the matrix and of the TikTok. Whereas where we're going, and as these teachings integrate deeper into me, I will share them with you, as where we're going is in that vertical ascent. There's always a balance because we are still a body here on the earth. Yet, as we continue to traverse, what we're going to start to work with more is the Taurus field. So I just wanted to share that with you. And I did post something this week on my Instagram. If that's of interest to you, you can go and scroll it out. And there's a picture and just a little blurb. Okay, so here we go. A little bit more.
Best-selling author, books translated into 30 languages, all the things that need it to be a certain way in the 3D. And that stuff can still happen. And we're going to be dancing and singing, and you're going to be on stage. So it's all going to still happen, just in ways that without us conjuring it, because once we get to enough of this point, it can't be contained in the matrix anymore. You see, it can't.
I freaking love that. So to me, that's like the crescendo. I feel like, okay, drop the mic. We can all go home now. And I pray you can get that because it's very exciting to me. This idea that as we drop the notions of how we think it's supposed to happen and getting over, crying in our soup because it's not here yet, whatever it is that we think that we need to happen, even though it's already happened a million times over, and all the reincarnations and the incarnations we've already had it. See, that's why we think we still need it now, but we already have it. It's already in resonance. It's already a part of your vibrational frequency in the atoms that you are in this lifetime. And when we let that go and we give ourselves over to trusting a much bigger picture, that is quite possibly a part of this universal and collective reincarnation of this big story that we're all here, this big party that we're all here to be a part of in this lifetime. If we're all here together, all the bodies, all the people that have ever incarnated on this planet at any given time, if we're all here together in this one span cycle, this is a pretty big party for us to be here together with. So instead of being distracted and being foolish and keeping asking, why isn't it happening, right? We're invited to be the fool, to be the zero, and to trust our dreams are leading us exactly where we need to be now. Let's keep going. But the fun thing, though, that I really love, again, the drop the mic thing, is that the bigger picture, the universal reincarnation, the story, the party, the myth, that we're all here to take this planet to a different, I don't know whatever it could be. I have no idea, but I'm so excited now that I've surrendered to it. This whole idea that the reason why this training that we're going through here together, getting out of this TikTok and working the tube, working the channel, working the God channel, working the love power channel within us, all those channels within us, is because that which is seeking to be brought to earth is not of the world, you see. It cannot be contained by the matrix. And again, we are learning now, if you are with me on this, if this resonates, and I know this is far out, this is advanced stuff, this is master level teachings for the master. And if this tickles your fancy, dear master, there's this idea, right, that we are with the Merkaba and the Taurus, where we use the Merkaba training, we use all of these things, our positive affirmations, our Reiki healing, our all of the modalities and the things that we're guided to be with, we use them so that we remember. We remember truth. We remember love is the truth. We remember the power, the activating power that we have in the divine connection with God or source or love, what name you would give that. And we come back into ourselves in that love. Again, we get to know who we are in that love. And we learn how to be a master of energy, right? And in my other book, How to Manifest with the Law of Vibration, it's all about that. It's a heaven on earth book, though. It's not manifesting in the way that we learned with The Secret, but it's manifesting by way of how we're talking about here, of getting rid of all the stories and of all the things, being so specific and allowing a much larger, broader paint stroke, a more general affirmation versus a very specific affirmation that is attuned to the truth in your authentic heart, to allow that to come in. Yet still, even more so than that, where we're going beyond that, which we need that. This training, it's a part of the training. Unless you came in and you already are beyond that, fine. Yet it's a part of the training. We learn how to master energy. We learn how to master our vibration. We learn about the law of vibration, which is different from the law of attraction. The law of attraction creates from the mental and emotional planes of our sphere. No, the law of attraction manifests. It attracts, right? That which is a reflection of the mental and emotional components of our being. The law of vibration manifests from your heart, from spirit, from your truth. So there's mastery in that. There's a training. There's an initiation in that. Yet beyond that, you see, what we're explaining in this recording, and you might have to go back and listen to this again, and I would love it if you did. I'm going to have to go back and listen to it. This idea, though, is that when we move out of the Merkaba consciousness, and not that it's a bad thing, it's a part of the training, but we start to move into the Taurus consciousness, into that vertical, into the 4D, from 3D to 4D, from binary to trinary, you see. We're not playing with the same tools anymore. I mean, we are, because we're constant master in the matrix. We're constant master in the 3D when we start to verge that 4D. Yet the 4D has a different game. It has new tools. And again, those new tools come as the new parts of you are allowed to light up as you let go of your calling not showing up and manifesting the way that you think it needs to, you see. So we don't know until we don't know. And there's this sense of, in that 4D realm, where we're no longer merely, attempting to manifest with any law, but we are simply allowing truth to be manifest in every moment of our existence. Now we're almost at the end. Thank you so much. I know there's a few of you that are like fully sticking it out from the beginning, so thank you. Here we go.
Unless you keep going this way. And you can. Like he says, I want the red wine and the beef steak, in the matrix. I'm going to stay here. You have a taste of the power. You have a taste of the love, taste of the of the what lies beyond it, you know. And hey, we all do whatever we want to do. It doesn't really matter unless it matters.
It doesn't matter unless it matters. So again, that idea that all of matter is conjured from the atoms that we are and that makes up this whole universe. That's a collective agreement that we've decided on, and we'll just keep going with it until we decide on something else. And it is our attention and our focus in a certain direction that stirs the excitement of the atoms to either create and materialize something or to uncreate and dematerialize something. So it doesn't matter if you have no mind. Remember our little picture. If you have no mind about it, whatever it is, then you are less connected in that way to the collective grid matrix, and so have less of an influence into it and from it to you. And so you are less bound, you are free, you are sovereign, and allowing the Most High divine love to create through you in unlimited ways.
Because it's the magician in the matrix. It's the mystic in the matrix. It does get easier though, you know. The grace, the letting go.
Ah, we made it. Okay, that's the end of the recording. So it does get easier. And what I was saying there,
This is the thing.
if you could hear it, is this idea of we become, right, we learn. It's one thing to exit the matrix, darling, but it's another thing to master the matrix. And so slightly different things, and that could be a whole 4DT on itself. And ultimately, mastering the matrix is exiting the matrix, right? But beyond that is as we move into this 4D consciousness, as we become magicians, clear light magicians in the matrix. We become mystics in the matrix because we are still bodies and we still have a connection with the planet. But remember, it changes from being the world to the earth. And so the difference between you trying to make it happen your way versus allowing love's way to work for the highest good, for whatever this story is, this myth of this collective consciousness that is seeking to be birthed through us. And for those of us that are willing to allow a much larger picture of self to be manifest, we will know it. We will have the experience of it. And remember, timelines and dimensions and parallel dimensions and quantum timelines, it's like it's all right here. It's right here. Side by side, enmeshed, yet whatever your sequence is for your experience, you could be side by side someone else and they could have a one certain very specific experience and you could have a very different experience, yet you are always, you're two in one the same. You're always interconnected, yet depending on where your perceptual lenses are set pointed at and your frequency, your vibrational, depending on how you are mastering your inner matrix and how that plugs into the outer matrix, the grid matrix of collective consciousness is what discerns, right? Is what discerns what will be. And so again, we're learning here to allow this idea of this hidden purpose that maybe there's a much, 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 much larger continuum of you that we have only barely scratched the surface of, that is ready to be birthed. If you are watching this, it's ready to be birthed in you. And remember, it cannot be contained in the matrix anymore because you are not of this world. Oh God, I love that, right? We reach a tipping point where we drop the atoms and you are love more than you are matter. You are love more than you are atoms. You are love. The truth of you is more than the story of you. And maybe that's why your calling isn't manifesting, because there's some truth of this for you today. Thank you so much. I am so grateful for this divine community. I'm so very grateful. Thank you everyone for joining. I am Tuesday May Thomas. This is 4D Trinity, our weekly live stream. And next week we are doing our monthly live Ask Me Anything Q&A here at the show, at the channel, 4D Trinity. 11 a.m. every Thursday, I go live. Go down to the Show More box, join my website, subscribe there. It's the first page on the website. Subscribe and you will receive my monthly love letter to your email inbox. If you jive with the teachings, if you vibe with this stuff, and you want to keep in touch, I would love to. I would love to keep in touch with you. And when you do, you receive a copy of my little mini ebook called The Higher Self Blueprint of Mastery. I have an Instagram account. My email's down below. I'm very, very grateful for your donations to this channel. I'm so very grateful. And all of the links to my books are down below as well. I have music, I have meditations. You can not only watch here when you subscribe, but also on my website. You can check. I have so much things. I have art, all sorts of goodies, and over almost 400 videos here at YouTube. So if you are interested in this information, I welcome you to subscribe. And I welcome you and I bless you and I thank you so, so very much. And I look forward to us meeting next week for our Ask Me Anything Q&A. I'll put up a little video reminder here at the channel so that you will know. So in the meantime, enjoy a very blessed day. And I'm so grateful for this community and to share these conversations with you. Thank you and namaste, everyone. Blessings and thank you and thank you and thank you and thank you again. Bless.